joking. I don't know what to even say about that. I don't know what. I just completely. Hello. I'm sorry.
I mean, I would watch that show, Lipstick Hour.
What does that even mean? Lipstick out. It's just that I saw that I had lipstick. And I was trying to explain that yes, this is earlier than normal if you are here live. But what is normal anyway? And let's just see what the new normal is going to be. The new normal is a term that came into its peak popularity post-pandemic. The new normal. God, it's such a. What is the new normal? We've all seen. Everyone seems to have gone back to post-pandemic behavior. Gosh, we've got a measles outbreak in Sydney. I was talking to a friend yesterday. There's a whooping cough, outbreak in KL. All the diseases are actually coming back out. Measles. We thought I didn't realize measles was still a thing.
Well, yeah.
Whooping cough.
Did we get vaccinations for that?
Yes.
Some people didn't take it, huh?
Well, it's the Rubella.
Yeah, right.
Rosella. Sorry about that.
Close.
The rubella. By the way, it's really, really early, and this is why it's a little bit dark, and I had to put lipstick on. And that's why I said it was the lipstick hour, because I don't usually put lipstick on this early in the morning, because I'm going to, eat breakfast. I was going to say shove food down my no, but I'm not. I'm going to eat breakfast, but I'm also. I love lipstick, by the way. So speaking of post-pandemic new normal, my new normal after the pandemic, after lockdowns especially, was to not wear lipstick anymore because we're so used to wearing masks. We were wearing masks all the time. We still wear masks because, friends, there are new viruses in the air, and well, you have to give them a couple of millennia to settle down.
Yeah.
And until then, you have got to look out for your fellow human being and not spread these things. But no one cares. Everyone coughs into the air. Everyone spreads germs and is wiping. And no one seems to care about anyone else's health. Only their own. And not even that. Only their own, but not to be in good health, as long as, it's just a very strange attitude, and it is during COVID that, segregation, the divides were shown, the lines were drawn. Lines have always been drawn over so many things, but you can really simplify things about how people feel when it comes to things like how people react. Even if you don't like something personally, you suspect, the idea that vaccinations was going to be the way to... What do people think was going to happen with vaccinations? The anti-vaccine side, they're not wrong with their fears. They're just a bit
Look, you can't
obvious.
Trust the government.
That seems to be the case. That seems to be what people intrinsically know.
All the time. That's the thing, right?
And that's what people seem to really be scared of, because we've been lied to so many times. Of course, it is getting hard, but that's the thing. We're just lied to all the time about everything. But news, sorry, we're waiting for the sun to come up, and I've got the light just behind, and I really need this light on my face right now, otherwise I'm like...
We've got people fact-checking the news, You've
That
got
we
to go.
do.
Yeah, you have to read one article in 4 different outlets to find out whether it's true or not.
I've got these outlets out here, so I read a lot of news. Dwayne reads news from wherever your sources. I get lots and lots of I subscribe to a lot of news outlets. I don't really know which one to trust. All of these are quite Eurocentric. A lot of the Australian newspapers that I follow, and I still read, a lot of the Australian news sites are scary. Australian Broadcasting Commission, it's scaring me at the moment how they're seen. They're being staff from ABC are saying, sorry, but these people are biased, and they are biased against what is the prevailing mood of the world, and that is pro-humanity and anti-genocide. Now, ABC has always been the non-commercial news visual medium in Australia that has been trusted. Everyone trusts it. There's Sydney Morning Herald as well that I trust, but I'm seeing now, ooh, how biased media is and how Eurocentric. And then you have all the international ones, and the Guardian, which has got, Guardian Australia, Guardian whatever. The Guardian's background, backstory, back end, the optics. It's all quite white, Eurocentric, and maybe a white passing Indigenous person who is the head of their Indigenous Australia news, etc. But it's all quite. There is no actual population representation behind the scenes in all the news outlets. News.com and all that, well, they might as well be written by AI. Everything is now from everywhere else. If you look at the fine print of everything, people are reproducing from elsewhere. No one has got original articles anymore for their own news sources. At one stage, all the publications used to have departments, sub-departments, sub-editing, and then you'd have your journalists for all that. I used to work for a magazine that had a sub-edit. I was a sub-editor for that. And, we had departments of very small magazine, not a major magazine. Even then, in a small magazine, we were able to have a lot of staff, and editors, sub-editors, and just, now no more. My gosh, everyone... Oh, God, I don't know. And are we really okay with this? Are we really okay with our news now coming from via AI, which is harvesting rehashed words and everything that they're finding now? And what they're finding now is less and less of a human touch. So AI is now harvesting and regurgitating not real news, fake news, not the real information, not enough information. We need people. We still require people to really, really get to the core of things, to question. AI is not going to critically unpack things, issues, layers. I'm reading a news headline from Fiji Village. We need to work on our communication and defense. Of course, that's about rugby, because what's the first thing to lead a Fiji story? Rugby. And then, of course, you've got your 21 people, including a juvenile, charged with sexual offences in March. Great. The Fiji police force needs honest and hard-working officers who can do every task with full potential. Sure. The world police force needs that as well. Unfortunately, they do, all the police forces of the world do perhaps appeal to honest and hard-working people who think the police force is there to uphold the law for the humble citizen. The police force, when it was created, back when it was created in the state of America, was modeled on the Royal Guard. The Royal Guards existed only to serve and protect royalty. So, just understand what all of that is. The people who join the police force do join it for a myriad of reasons, some not so good. I personally have had interactions, no, don't worry, not like that, but just, no, it doesn't matter, we're like that anyway, but with interactions with police people who use their positions to bully a little and to spread fear. The fear, I guess, is necessary, but I think the police force should have led, or should have always intended to lead with respect. The way they behave, the way they act, their intentions, the reactions, and the results of police work should have incited respect in everyone, and that the fear that comes from respect is like, whoa, better not do it, and they're really going to come down on, But instead, it's a fear, and when people have fear as their motivator, it actually also causes rebellion in people, anarchy, and just like, no, not going to do that. And when the police use fear and action of fear, so brutality, to control people, that's more and more the rebellion against the authority of what police is. It could have been a beautiful thing, like everything, money, all of it. Because I know I have met police officers who are cool, who are truly there, truly feel like you can sense it off them that they're here to help, that they want to actually, make people feel safe. Unfortunately, now the presence of police in anywhere incites fear, and seeing guns, etc., in their holsters by their side, hearing the horror stories of what's been happening, of people who haven't been properly tested, like that Beau Lamar, who I think that's his name. This police, well, look, they say he's a police officer, but I think that is absolutely bringing the name of the police force down. I'm not on the side of the police force, but I'm not against them, because I do understand why certain bodies need to exist. I'm on the side of the police force if they're on the side of human beings and citizens. Absolutely. And I know individual police people who truly are there, who wish to make a difference and protect the citizen. And maybe something happened to them and they saw something and they wanted to go forth and make sure it was going to be okay.
Well, you hope, right?
But I think the system changes people. And there's an arrogance that comes into the authority of wearing a uniform and then being part of a body that can't be questioned, that cannot be, when that's not true. It's like how we realize, boy, so when you've got young parents, right? So my mother was in her 30s, my father was late 30s when they had me, but other people can say, because Dwayne had read this post and it said, what the hell was I so afraid of my father for when I was 5 or 4? He was 24, And it's like, that's right. So when you get to that age and you realize,
I'm an idiot.
My parent was only 24. What the hell was I scared of? And that's the authority that you get made to feel scared of, because they're higher, they're taller, they're and I would have loved the police force to be this body that people could run to freely, like, help, save us. And also, I really, really, really wish that by now having such a body would have stopped the need to run to people, a body, to ask for help, to save us.
I've had friends who have been mugged, females,
Yeah.
and they've gone to the police station, and you know what the police people say? You shouldn't have been out at 11 o'clock at night, walking around USP campus.
That's a story from Fiji.
Yeah.
USP is the University of the South Pacific, a fantastic place to be. One of the best universities, certainly in this region.
So she got told off for walking around at 11 o'clock at night, her and her friend. She wasn't by herself.
And women the world over, regardless of what your country is classified as, first world, third world, global north, global south, all we do is get blamed for, what are you wearing? What were you doing? Why were you out? Always. This is why when I got raped when I was 13, I didn't bother going to the police. Other reasons, because, well, I would have paid the consequence. My mother would have paid the consequence.
Well, the point I was trying to make was, we're supposed to be able to walk around at 11 o'clock.
Yes.
The cops aren't doing their jobs.
Maybe they are doing their jobs, but their jobs have it's escaped them. There are far too many people who are, and this is now nothing that can be fixed right now. It can't be.
Yeah. Now, how much are these people getting paid anyway? Do they even want to go and walk around, hit the streets?
Do we understand the psychological aspect of it from both sides? The psychological aspect of wanting to be a police officer. Why? Are there enough psychology tests done on these people? How do people get past? I was talking about this Beau Lamar guy. And also the psychology of what they have to put up with being on the streets, being police people who will constantly be maligned, constantly be in danger, constantly, have to, I'm afraid that sometimes adrenaline junkies, go and become police officers. I'm afraid sometimes that people who are bullied when they had no authority of their own, then want to go and take it out on people because as they get bigger, so I feel that people, oh, I feel people that are, you know, yeah, so that there's, and then people go into a body like a police force for revenge. Quite a few people, I feel. So I don't think that's fair on the on the people who do enter the police force with good intent, who say that they wish to make a difference to people. A few months ago, a very interesting thing happened to me, and it happened on a live. And it was interesting, and police people came to check because I have been fairly open in my healing journey, my healing trajectory. It hasn't been very, it has been a bit of a roller coaster, and I'm doing it naked-minded, and the therapy I'm doing is on myself, confronting myself, and my healer helps to, heals me to make me strong enough to do the work on myself. I'm not at all condemning outside therapy, not at all condemning the psychologists, the therapists everyone goes to, and the medication people choose to take. I am pro-medicine, pro-science, and I am pro absolutely getting to know yourself, but I do see how therapy now, modern day therapy, has become the new religion. My therapist says has become my God says. And so this is yet somebody else's words in your brain telling you. I have now had so many people say to me constantly, my therapist says this, blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, the kicker is this one, when they like to say, my therapist says people like you, set me back and look at what you've done to me and you trigger my bullshit. You're just hiding behind what your therapist says. All therapy really has become is just, the you show. So you can go somewhere and just have someone talk about you, and you talk about you. You pay for it, and it's just you. And let's not talk about what you do. Let's just talk about what gets done to you or what's been done to you. What about what you do to people as a result of the narcissistic traits that are a result of the trauma you have sustained and experienced and suppressed and kept in? Whatever. However, I do also understand how just having an active listener, how having someone listen to you without judgment, without even advice, without just listening to you, just making you feel heard and asking some really incredible questions. I'll go back to the police force, we'll go to that to news, but something happened. We recorded it for our podcast Radio Fly, because I am still, as I'm saying, I'm going through a healing trajectory, and I'll tell you, and because of that healing trajectory, there have been times that it's been really, really bad, and I've had to say to someone, I am healing from being suicidal. I don't want to be suicidal, except I have something now set in my neural pathways and the chemistry of my brain, the synapses, whatever it is that does that. I'm not a medical professional, I am knowledgeable with some things to do with the neurological conditions, but you go find that out for yourself, your information. And I know that it was ingrained, and anytime the stress just got too much, it would trigger the trauma, and then it would swirl in my brain. And so because of that, I had to tell someone, please help me. It was actually, we don't ask for help from people. I especially find it very, very difficult. I've been used to being in the position of being the helper, not because I want to be seen as the helper, but because I had the privilege to do so and the freedom to do so. Also very much the denial. I was in denial about my own trauma, and therefore I chose to advocate for everybody else's. But going back to that, I had to ask an organization to just give me some leeway on something. I explained why, and to their credit, they really, really absolutely understood, and then said, and then because that person, I was talking to a human being, finally I had to say to the chat bots, I cannot talk to you. Please give me an operator. I'm at my last. And anyway, the operator, when I told her the truth, but she actually got in touch with police. and said, could you please go and check on me, on this person? And it was quite weird, but the police came and checked, and I thought that was nice, if a bit scary, like, oh my gosh. Okay, I was feeling that way, but I also appreciate it because you had to be at work, you were at work that day, and during the healing trajectory part of all of that side, holy cow, it is weird because I will talk about the mental health, the suicidal part of it. I don't think people understand what suicide and all of that is, so I will talk about that very openly. I will get back to all that. So, and when I was explaining to the lovely police people, a woman and a man, and they were saying, yes, look, we get it. They talk about that. I think these two were specifically sent because I think they may have been ones who have been allocated to talk about mental health, etc. And they were really lovely. And so I do understand, I do know, because the police force is made up of people. All of these things, armies, etc., are made up of individuals, of people. They separate bodies of thought and action. How do they all become one body? It's because everyone gets manipulated and conditioned, colonized to believe a certain way. How people who are colonized and oppressed and suppressed can start advocating for their oppressors. We come from a country where people of my ancestry who were indentured laborers, aka legal slaves, who were lied to, taken over to that country, and it wasn't the first country in the world to get these illegal slaves sent to them. The Caribbean, in the Pacific, New Caledonia and Vanuatu first had the indentured laborers sent there. Anyway, we were lied to, our ancestors, suppressed, oppressed, tortured, traumatized so badly that trauma is still in the genes of our people. And our menfolk, our male folk, are so terribly, terribly damaged by the trauma that they have sustained from centuries. Anyway, what I'm saying to you is that the people of Fiji, the first people of Fiji, hate, well, not, I'm generalizing, and certainly not individually, but you cannot say this is not a truism, because all Indo-Fijians know that really, if they could, they would kick us off that island that is our only home. India doesn't recognize that we're Indians. They just know we're the diaspora. Maybe we should all collectively say to India, hey, we'll come and, can you give us a small place, an island to live? Because we're islanders, we don't, and, we're global, really. We're voyagers. Indo-Fijians travel all over the world, voyage all across the seas. Yeah, like the Pacific people. We too voyaged. That oily-chested Olympic flag bearer likes to say, we've voyaged across the seas. Where did you voyage from is another story that people don't want to talk about, do they? Anyway, what I'm saying is that this is what happens to bodies like the police. Individuals in a body that is supposed to be one body, work as one. Well, it's the Stockholm syndrome. The kidnapped person becomes sympathetic to the kidnapper. The oppressed person becomes sympathetic to the oppressor, because, with all the pain, you hold on to that one good thing, and you think, see, they're a good person. They don't want to hurt me. That's what's happened. I have had to live through that as well with the trauma I've lived through. So that's how that happens. Now, we're talking about things that cannot be changed in our lifetime because people have become too conditioned and set in their ways. We have to go back and undo centuries of damage done to us, the species that we are, we see ourselves as separate from each other, separate because of religion, because of race. What are those if not constructs? Anyway, what Dwayne had said to me when we were, we had gone to bed early, later than usual, and we started talking because I still feel the grief, and it's an interesting process to me to understand how healing works. First, you have to understand that you need healing. Then you've got to look at yourself. People usually stop at the, ooh, I'm traumatized, can't do anything, I'm paralyzed. And that's what trauma does. And it just, stress on top of trauma, it's just that, it's not being able to move. Anyway, so we were talking about a few things like, why aren't our billionaires like the billionaires of fiction? Why aren't our billionaires Batman and Iron Man, Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark of fiction? Why are our rich people the exact opposite of all the rich people in fiction? I mean, I talk about Richie Rich. Does anyone remember that cartoon character, comic book character? I loved Richie Rich. They're filthy rich. Very helpful. Anyone who's filthy rich in books and movies are usually people who like to go and help everybody mysteriously. It's not happening in the real world. Oh gosh, the real world. Our reality is
Weird, right?
It's weird, and that's what we kept saying. It's weird. It's weird, our reality. And you know what? Why? Because individuals, I was going to say what, but I said why. Individuals don't break out of their cages. We shut these cages on ourselves. Many, many times our people who have gone out to oppress, to marginalize our communities, to be in positions of power that say that only they have the authority to do things or say things, and then we all put our cages around. All right, I can't do anything. Some of it is velvet prisons. I used to be in a velvet prison. I shut the cell doors on my cells. I broke out of that, but I still, now the healing process of grief, my gosh. Whew, having to confront it. So as I said in the episode, I will put the link in this caption for today's Daily Egg, because I don't want to repeat everything that we said. Everything that we say is organic. There's some things, but I realize, but going through the stages for myself and having to confront myself as the child who witnessed all the violence, and then the child who experienced the violence. And that was okay. I was okay with that part of it. It was having to go back into my child self, because the memory contains all of us. That's why the brain suppresses it, so much of it suppressed, and that is what PTSD is. When the brain all of a sudden pops out, because it needs to cycle. Our memories need to cycle the full breadth of all our capacity. And that is how we retain information and are able to recall it. Recollection is based on the fact that our memory requires us to remember everything. And we remember as on call. So, things aren't going to stay at the forefront of your brain, of your memory, of your hippocampus, but they will be at your call. But when you're traumatized, you suppress. You don't want that. Except when PTSD does the rounding thing, because even our brains orbit. Our consciousness, something else orbits our brains to collect memories, And what PTSD is when the brain comes, the memory stops at a moment where you do not want to remember. How can I explain to you what PTSD is? I will attempt to later when I talk about what it feels like to be suicidal, because we need to talk about mental health, and you need to listen to it from people like me. I am strong, and now I know just how strong. I have always understood that about myself, and I've always wanted to thrive because I love life. I love living. I live it with all of me. I don't hold back in living life. So I've never ever understood why I had that. But anyway, this conversation we were having was about quite a few things, and I will put that episode up. It's less than an hour. It's a bit of a roller coaster, as per usual. We laugh, I cry, there's epiphanies. I had an absolute breakthrough last night. Darling, thank you.
I don't even know if I should say you're welcome. It's just like, I didn't do anything. I did nothing.
I don't know whether or not to repeat it here. I can't quite do that because I can't remember it, but it was just because having to face all of it and the healing trajectory, you know, the PTSD that, yes, police people have too. Everyone has PTSD. It's terrible. It's not post-traumatic stress disorder. It's present time stress disorder. But this healing process, and now finally when I have gotten through the grief, I had to feel grief for the things that happened to me. I had to give myself that time. It's interesting to know that, okay, I have been battered really badly. I've had bones fractured, etc. As a child, I've had to live through that. I've had to live with being seen as a rich, spoiled kid while inside, behind the scenes, I've been, you know, battered, sexually assaulted, and raped, and quite a few other things. Great. Those things have forged me. I know now who I am. I can, you know, I live through things. I thrive through things. Not just survive, thrive. It is confronting what happened to my mother. And then, long story short, and regular viewers know I say this a lot, now that I'm in myself, occupying my vessel, all parts of me, every single cell has me in it. I know who I am. And now I believe. But now I also know that I have my mother in me because I chose not to give birth. I gave birth to myself and I kept my mother's DNA in me and I feel my mother. And I'm finally, like, she's finally got permission to stop being my mother so I can mother my mother inside me. Because I feel her pain and her grief. And Dwayne said something to me last night that just, it was a revelation. And I'd like you to listen to that episode because, and I'll have it up on, but I don't know if I can, I don't know, but it was just a revelation and just, oh my gosh. Just, you know, up the healing trajectory I go. If it's like a thermometer, there's thermometers that we use to denote how much money is raised for something. And, you know, constantly the quicksilver in the thermometer, is it quicksilver? Yes, it goes up and up and up.
Mercury.
The mercury, which, if you're into astrology or if you can't help but read something somewhere, according to astrological science, yes, it is a science, Mercury is in retrograde, and we talked about that yesterday, but, oh my gosh. Healing, you know, that was incredible. Oh gosh, we were all so traumatized and it's just not necessary. Unfortunately, because we are all so traumatized, it is necessary that we all look at ourselves properly and then look at our ancestors, starting with your immediate ancestors. And even if you have no issues with your parents, even if you hate your parents, you have to especially look to your mother. You have to know who she is to know yourself, and then you've got to look at your father, and if your father is relevant to your life, you've got to look at things there. And if the father is not, if the mother is not, again, you've got to look at them all, examine all of it just to see who you are. Anyway, I had started off saying about the police force and how police people sure have PTSD, but what they mostly have PTSD from, unfortunately, is the fact that the police, that what they require of you is to become part of the body, and you cannot then be against that body, even if you know that body is not functioning properly for the benefit of others. But if you swear allegiance to it. But like, so there was this recent case in Sydney this newly minted police officer, it was 2019, 2020, who sounds like a bit of a nuisance, and I don't really know why he was accepted into the police force. It's scary to me that they're just not doing enough tests. And I'll tell you why he's a bit of a nuisance, because he's actually been arrested a few weeks ago now, a month and a half ago, arrested for the murder of two young men, a gay couple, or a couple who are gay, I should say. We don't say a straight couple. Well, unless we're a straight couple, so okay. A gay couple. He murdered them using police equipment. And it's shocking. And, everyone's like, the police officer, but yeah, this is an individual. But however, if you expect all the individuals in your police force to act as one body, then you have got to understand media and people will say, the police force did this. The police, well, they didn't properly vet, because fire people have to, fireys have to, firemen, they have to, I'm sure, vet people. Otherwise, there's a lot of pyromaniacs who would want to go and become fire people. A lot of the very things, like doctors, you always read about, because we're watching an old series called Elementary, well, not too old, in the noughties, starring Lucy Liu and Johnny Lee Miller as Sherlock Holmes, and Lucy Liu as Dr. Joan Watson. Stroke of genius. We talked about this yesterday. Right. And, angel of death, doctors who go around killing their patients to put them out of their misery. Which we also talked about last night in that episode for Radio Fly now, about, well, it's got to do with suicide, etc. If people really want to die, should they be allowed to? Is that fair on the people who love them? Because what kept me from not doing that, other than me saying to myself, Sandhya, you love life, you love living. Remember, you've got some really important things to do next week. You've got to shoot, you've got to write something, blah, blah, blah. And nothing would work, because that side of you that's saying, I want to stop the screams in my head. And the only thing that worked for me was thinking about my mother. So, I will talk about that. But anyway, going back to this case that happened here. So this officer, Beau Lamar, I don't know why he wasn't vetted properly by the police force, because he looks like a nuisance. He was a celebrity chaser. Yeah. Not even a paparazzi, just someone who wants to find where all the celebrities are and take a selfie with them. And by the looks of the faces on these celebrities, they're all like, go away, pest. So he was already a serial pest. My gosh. And stories have now come out about things like, what he used to do to people. And they've tried to make this case that Beau Lamar was, it was a crime of passion. Ugh, I hate that term, crime of passion. If somebody kills someone that they used to love or were in a relationship, that's not passion. How dare you contaminate, corrupt, and sully that beautiful word, passion. It's a crime, full stop, of inhumanity. Anyway, so that police officer, Beau Lamar, or whatever his name is, he used to have sex with one of the guys, with one of the men he murdered. He wasn't in a relationship. It wasn't a boyfriend. He was obsessed. This is the type of person who goes into things like the police force just to take revenge on people, because doesn't look like a sane person. Looks like a bit of a celebrity hungry, fame hungry, power hungry person. And this person was allowed to become a police person, sullying the intent and purpose of others who enter the body of the police force. The police force sacrament almost seems to be that of Christianity. Eat the body, drink the blood, become one. I don't know, but they should have vetted these people. And the story that Dwayne told about what happened, in the USP campus, etc., women getting harassed and stalked and all these things, police people just tell them, what are you doing out so late? all these things.
Why aren't they out?
Yeah, why aren't they out? Why aren't they enough? Why isn't the mere thought of police enough to deter people? I mean, hello, the Phantom, Ghost Who Walks. Those of us from Fiji or who are character aficionados or comic book connoisseurs, etc., know about the Phantom. And you should know about the Phantom. And if you don't, well, then we do have a finalysis for you on our channel right now. Please do go look at our playlists. Well, the Phantom, Ghost Who Walks. Just the mere mention of his name, just the fact that he exists is enough for people to go, set, sweet, you're done. We're not doing this anymore.
The myth is enough.
The myth is enough, and that's what the police force should have been. The myth of the police force, the sound of force, police force. Yeah, I'm not going to do anything bad today. But instead in Australia, we have people, individuals who join the police force so that they can give air and oxygen to their bigotry, to their insecurity. And this is what is sullying the name of the police force. I do believe that the police force has good intent. Not how it started, and not certainly all over the world, but more and more the people who join it, I think they think, well, they can make a difference. Like everyone who enters politics who thinks that they can make a difference and then very quickly realize the system is bigger. The system goes deep. It's entrenched in our psyche. And we get told, no, you've got to be with, because we've got to do this for the bigger picture. This is why I now, in my old age, have started to really, or maybe I do believe, that the moon landing with Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and oh my gosh, Michael Collins, is that the third guy? Why do we never remember the third guy?
There were three? No.
So, why has Neil Armstrong never, ever, well, he's not alive anymore, but he's never talked about it. He didn't want to talk about it. What if it really was fake, just so the state of America and the Americans could get, the space race, win the space race first, because we know Americans are very competitive. And the Russians were sending their cosmonauts, that's what they call their astronauts, out first. And they were determined to land on the moon first. And absolutely, Russian and German technology is insane. Funny how we're okay with German technology. We don't want to give any voice to Russian capabilities. But that's because we know now that their capabilities are just focused on war and invasion of other countries that they deem a threat. I do think the rest of Europe has to be on alert, and I think that they are. We're just not being told about it. But I do think the rest of Europe has to be alert because Putin has plans. And he's getting older, but he doesn't seem to want to relinquish his grip on he wants the USSR to come back. And you know what he wants as the USSR now? Europe. The rest of us need to be aware of this. Anyway, what was I saying? What don't I say? We were starting off with headlines. Oh gosh, and I read something about what the Fiji police force needs. Honest and hard-working officers. The entire world needs honest and hard-thinking people. And then we can truly be a force to be reckoned with. Imagine if we didn't need to police ourselves. Imagine if we just had a body that was just there to assist. The assisting force.
Oh, nice.
Sounds like a utopian,
That's some hippie shit.
That's some hippie shit, right? Some idealistic crap. That's not why? If the evil side is all the reality, why can't the good side of it be the reality too? Why have we accepted that the shitty side of things is what is? Why can't we truly work to a time and work and do it now? That does mean we all have to individually change. People are too caught up in their own misery. And people stop it. I'm traumatized. And the paralysis, it is like having to pull yourself out of the thickest tar, fighting gravity and the pull of like a black hole. Think of that tar as like a black hole. So you're fighting yourself out of that, and you're on a slippery slope.
Jeez.
And it's deep, and this is what it feels like to heal from trauma. So I get it why people don't want to. And sometimes you're just paralyzed, just holding on with one hand onto a cliff because you don't want to fall back into that tar pool black hole of misery. I get it, it's hard. I've done it, I'm doing it. I'm doing it naked-minded, as I said earlier. I am pro-medicine. I'm not condemning any of that stuff. I do understand why therapy is necessary, how people, despite having friends and partners and gosh knows what, still need someone objective, an outside person who doesn't know their deepest, darkest things, because that's actually the problem. People don't want to admit to things to people who are supposed to be their loved ones. So if you pay someone, it's a professional transaction, and it's their job to get this shit out of you. So people pay to go to a psychologist, sit there in silence, because I know I would. I wouldn't sit in silence. I'd be very talkative, but I would never, ever, ever tell the truth. And I know the psychologist would know I'm not telling the truth, but I don't want to tell the truth to someone who's been given this authority over me by society and the qualifications of the Euro construct that says, oh, that this person with the qualifications of psychology or psychiatry then has the right to tell me what's going on with me, and that is based on Euro construct and, frankly, the teachings of old white Euro white males. And I don't want any more Euro white bullshit in my head. I like all the good Euro white shit. I like all their good stuff.
Not the bullshit.
Not the bullshit. But I get that therapy works for people. And I get that. Great. I am not saying to you don't. I'm just saying to you these are the reasons why I didn't. With medical consent, with the consent, full consent of my doctor and my doctor now. So no medication either, because I understood what it would do to my brain. And when my doctor said to me, you won't be yourself for up to 2 years, that's okay. What? No, it's not okay. And then I also saw what it actually did to people to be on antidepressants, and no thank you, not for me. Not for me. Not for me, because I had the luxury of a lot of things. And I will talk about that when I do talk about mental health. I was going to read the news headlines. Darling, look, there you go. It seems to happen that every time I say I'm going to read the news headlines.
Well, you did read a couple, right?
Every morning I will be, part of our show now is just going to be touching on what is happening. So just a little bit in Sydney. I'm going to stop talking about what I'm talking about now. Let's go through a little bit of headlines. So headlines on ABC, which I have said that is no longer a trusted news source in Australia. So join us, because I tell you what will be a trusted news source in the world, us, me, this show.
If we get to it.
When I do finally read the news headlines, but this is what One Take News is for. And One Take News is seasonal, because we can't do everything all ourselves, even though we do a lot. And I do have to concede that even though we are a 26 person production house with 2 people only, the things we do, all our platforms, our show, our magazine, which is on publishing hiatus, our podcasts, we have 4. Our main one is Radio Fly. Then we have all the other things we're doing. So, around that we have a publishing house. We have a book we would like to get to and pay it forward. Very, very difficult, more difficult than I realized. Thank you to the people who have, done that, who have paid for other people to benefit. That's wonderful, but very few people have done that. My gosh, we have a book called Pacific Runway, the photo book. It's not our book, it's our clients, the Pacific Runway, who I happen to be lead photographer for, and we both have been Pacific Runway team and always will be Pacific Runway team. And this book is a chronicle of legacy, history, and its ongoing content. And regardless of who has the book, it is a learning experience and it ignites sparks in people who thought, well, that stuff's not for me. I can't see representation. This is a book of representation for the world. And we need to get it into the hands of people who can't get it for themselves and want it and want to be able to look at it. There's ongoing content in there as well. Now that is a signature of DDV Publishing, our publishing house. We want to publish your books. We want to publish your artistry, not just your pain. Multicultural publishing houses in Australia especially, they're great. Dwayne works for a few as an independent contractor. And they're not full-time jobs because, well, there's not full-time publishing jobs for multicultural people. Except, there's publishing houses the world over that are manned with people. Fiction galore. How about some real life artistry? Come to us. We'll publish. We'll lay out we'll do everything for it. Except, well, we'd like to print it, and we'd like to print it on shore. Keep jobs local. We need people to come to us with funding for all of that. We have to source funding constantly. We have to constantly source income for our bills and funding for our projects. And then we work. All of this is still our work. And people I think they have good meaning when they say things. They have good intent. They're well-meaning when they say, well, why don't you get a job? And it's like, oh my God. When? In the 25 hours I already work, 8 days a week, and try and chill. And because we're older and I'm older, I do need to be really focused on my health too. I don't want to stress myself out back to whatever. I have physical pain. And you don't understand this if you are not an artist, but the artist's artistry comes from their soul, and that energy then goes into doing other work. And it is soul depleting. We know. We've done it. Dwayne has done it during my healing process. Dwayne had 3-4 jobs. Not all in artistry. Not all just doing the trade side of his arts. And I'm the one that has said to him, darling, no, stop now. We last year took leaps of faith into our skill set, because how privileged are we to be able to have skills that have and continue to earn money and income for us. Except we are getting more and more obstacles in our way, and AI is one of them. AI is supposed to be assisting intelligence. It should be helping artists further our work instead of the mundane shit that we sometimes have to do. Everyone has to do mundane shit, I get it, even artists. But no, they're taking over the art jobs. Artificial intelligence. Anyway, the other thing about the police force, just very quickly, because I read a headline on ABC, is Medicare biased against women. These doctors and midwives think so. I think everything is biased against women. In Australia, especially in the state of Queensland, if you read news articles, women with domestic violence have nowhere to turn to. My mother had nowhere to turn to back then when she was experiencing all of that, when I witnessed it all. And we were rich. And that was worse. Because they believed the rich man.
That was the time as well, right?
Yeah, it was the time as well.
And
we're still in that time, clearly.
Yeah, in Fiji,
Fiji, darling, in Australia.
Yeah.
Males are doing the most heinous things to their wives and children because the wives have decided no more, they can't take any more abuse. Do you know what these weak males do? Go read about what they do. They set fire to their children.
Jeez.
And then they don't even have, some of them then off themselves, and some people don't even have the guts to do that. And they call these crimes of passion. My fucking ass, they're crimes of passion. Excuse my profanity. I'm angry. These are criminals. These are evil, heinous weaklings. Sadly, some of them have been in the police force. This is why women do not feel safe in this world. This is why we need allies, we need our holy guards to stand up, man up. You've got to change the world, and you've got to start with yourself. Women, we really do. Because we are starting to hate each other, blame each other, and do strange, strange things to ourselves. Anyway. Oh, look. Sydney and Hawkesbury at risk of widespread floods. Great. When the cash flow stops, they go bust. More builders are collapsing and consumers are fighting to fix their homes. Woo! We feel angry. Alice Springs teens frustrated by rise in social media crime. Unacceptable and appalling. Qantas charged a person $6,400 for business seats because the economy wasn't accessible. Well, Qantas has always been about profits. Ask good old Alan. Alan doesn't give a shit. Alan's retired, a multi-squillionaire. Alan Joyce, the ex-CEO of Qantas. He is a success story when it comes to this world. No. Don't believe what the common person is saying, how Qantas has become shit. And this is me saying this. I still love Qantas. I love Qantas. I've been flying Qantas since I was a child. But Qantas has just not done well by its people. Of course, they only give a shit about anyone up the pointy end. I remember Fiji Airways about 2 years ago came up with this, look, and everyone went, oh, yay! Bullshit. Fiji Airways was voted one of the best airlines in the world. By whom? By whom? Certainly not the people traveling down the back. Because if you go by anything that is said on Fiji Twitter, Fiji Facebook, anything that has got lots of people of Fiji, they're always complaining about Fiji Airways. I can't join those complaints, I have to be honest. I have had nothing but good treatment on Fiji Airways, but our last flight out was, it was not bad treatment. It was just a really packed flight, etc. And it was very interesting for us, symbolically. That's I guess, but I have not personally. I've always enjoyed it. However, I have seen the decline in quality of service, and that's not necessarily the person's fault who is serving. It is who hired them, who trained them. I come from a time when travel was something else, and Air Pacific, which was the national carrier. Fiji Airways is the original name. It was called Air Pacific. I don't remember the exact dates. Somewhere around there. 1950s. It was in the 1970s, somewhere around there.
19 something.
Something around there. And Air Pacific was just sublime. And I've traveled up the front of both Air Pacific and Fiji Airways. And look, the people who get treated the best are the ones who spend the most money. And of course, they're the ones who are going to get asked, what do you think of our airline? Oh, superb. Oh, see, everyone thinks our airline's the best. Well, of course, they're traveling up the front. Qantas, right? Alan Joyce has made a lot of profit for Qantas. And you know what happens? All these people do all these shitty things. And the state of America does this too. Currently, the state of America has black American people speaking for the White House in places like the UN. And having to stand up and say, no, the USA votes against ceasefire. Black American women are being made to say this out in the world. Forget glass ceilings. Now we have glass cliffs. That's a term. Glass walls that men of color have always had to, break through. Women have had glass ceilings. Oh, well, it's a terrible thing that's happening now. And now with other things. So the CEOs of businesses that have raped their people the CEOs are now women who have to stand up and say, well, look, I'm sorry that you were raped by the people before, but look, I'm here to make it all better. So Alan Joyce, and you know what? People couldn't say much about Alan Joyce because Alan Joyce is gay. And it's got nothing to do with the way he does business, except it does, because people don't want to be seen as being discriminatory against someone who is gay, who is in a very, very powerful position. By the way, Alan Joyce is not Australian, he's Irish. And this Irish person came into Australia, changed everything, made absolute profits for the Qantas shareholders, because that's all who matters. The shareholders, fuck the people flying the plane, having to save and scrimp and just to travel somewhere. No. What are you people? But, and now that business class is no longer for people who are actually doing business now, as I've said, business class is, bogan for people with points. Bogan class. Flying on points. Well, that's fine. I've flown on points many times. And I've seen the behavior of people. It's like, my God. But I've also seen the behavior of people in the economy. I'm like, my God, what is this? How people behave in out of context. It's insane. It's insane. All travel is luxury. All travel. And that's how it used to be. But anyway, those are some news headlines. As I was saying about One Take News, I did some news headlines. I love doing deep dives. As regular viewers know, I have done deep dives of one topic. And then there are the One Take News, which is our seasonal news program. As I was saying, that we do so much that sometimes we have to, and I have to say, okay, I need to not do this right now and this right now, because I can't put my full focus onto that. And also healing. And healing is a very, very, it needs a lot of energy to do. You can't heal while doing other things. It just robs you of the healing energy. A lot of things can help you heal. Doing things you love and being able to have clarity in them helps you understand yourself better, and that helps you heal. But we shouldn't put work in, or our this stuff, what we love to do, in place of the work that is required internally. They call it shadow work. And what is shadow work if not therapy? And a friend sent me some information about what shadow work is, and it's just self-therapy. It's just actually this. It's all fancy terms for just look at your fucking self and be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself anymore. Don't look down upon your nose at everyone else's whatever because you're like, well, I'm traumatized and I'm handling it really well because blah, 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 blah. Don't talk to me, I'm triggered. Hate me all you want for saying that. I'm the one that's actually telling you that I used to be like that too. Anyway, well, that seems to be us for today, and it now seems to be time for the most important part of the show, the Daily Egg. Thank you very much for being here this morning. Yes, we are earlier than usual if you are watching this live. If you're not, you're watching this anytime, so great, but do join us live because we're going to be introducing, just things. I like doing things live. Why do things, way ahead of, behind the scenes without anyone knowing, when you can trip in public and go, hey, I got up again. See? Proof. I did it in front of you.
Truth.
Yeah, that's it. All right. That's us for today. Thank you very much for being here. I will be back somewhere either on Instagram or on our channel. And if I am, you'll see that. I want to talk about mental health really, really clearly. Bye. Okay.